The sun rises over Heartland Ranch, painting the sky in soft gold. Amy's voice echoes faintly as she calls to the horses, her tone calm, but her eyes carry the quiet weight of loss. Everything feels familiar, peaceful even until a shadow appears on the distant trail. A lone rider approaches, the sound of hooves breaking the morning stillness. Amy turns, freezes, and her breath catches. It can't be, it's impossible. But standing there, covered in dust and disbelief, is Ty. The morning at Heartland begins like any other. Amy, brushing down her horse. The faint smell of hay mixing with the crisp air. Birds chirp from the trees, and for a moment, the ranch feels alive in its quiet routine. But underneath that calm surface, there's a stillness in Amy's heart. Ever since Ty's death, she's learned to move forward, to find strength for her daughter, Lindy, and to hold on to the ranch's spirit even when it felt like her own had been lost. Every corner of Heartland still holds pieces of him. The barn where they worked side by side, the trails they once rode together, and the open fields where laughter used to echo. That morning, something feels different. Amy doesn't notice it at first. The light seems brighter, the air sharper, but there's a kind of energy in the air, as if the land itself is holding its breath. As she finishes her chores, she hears the sound of hooves in the distance. Nothing unusual for Heartland, but this sound feels off, slow, deliberate, like someone unsure of where they are, yet deeply drawn back home. Amy straightens, her hand still on the brush, her eyes scanning the hill. Through the soft morning light, a figure appears, a man on horseback, his posture tired but familiar. Her heart skips. For a second, Amy tells herself it's just a ranch hand, maybe someone dropping by from another farm. But as he gets closer, something inside her shifts. That's not a stranger's face. That's not a trick of the light. That's Ty. Amy's first reaction isn't joy, it's disbelief. She blinks, her chest tight, eyes wide as she steps back. Her mind races through impossible thoughts. Maybe she's dreaming. Maybe this is her heart playing cruel tricks again. But the closer he comes, the clearer it becomes this isn't a vision. His expression carries exhaustion, pain, and a hint of something deeper, like a man who's lived through years in a single day. The horse stops a few feet away. Ty swings down, his movements slow, uncertain. For a long moment, neither of them speaks. The silence between them feels heavy, almost sacred. Amy's hand trembles as she whispers his name, afraid that if she says it too loud, he'll vanish again. But he doesn't. Ty looks at her the same way he used to, soft, grounded, full of that steady calm that always balanced her storm. And then it hits her. He's real. He's here. The world around them seems to stop moving. The rustling trees, the whinnying horses, even the wind all fade to silence. Years of pain, sleepless nights, and quiet tears rush back at once. Amy wants to run to him, to hold him, to ask every question bursting in her heart. But she can't move. Fear holds her in place. Fear that if she touches him, he'll disappear again. Ty takes a small step forward. His eyes are filled with something that's both familiar and distant, like a man returning from a place too far for words. His voice is hoarse, barely above a whisper, but every syllable lands like a thunderclap in Amy's chest. I came home. Those 3 words are enough to break her. Her breath comes out shaky, tears blurring her vision. She doesn't know how, or why, or what miracle brought him back, but none of it matters. For the first time in years, Ty is standing in front of her, alive, and in that fragile, impossible moment, the heart of Heartland starts beating again. Amy doesn't move for a long time. Her feet feel heavy, her heart caught between the past and the present. The morning air that once felt crisp now feels thick, almost hard to breathe. Ty stands there, close enough that she could reach out, but her body refuses to believe what her eyes are showing her. For years, she's dreamed of this moment, but in every dream, Ty would fade before she could touch him. Now, he's real, dirt on his boots, lines on his face, eyes filled with a history she can't yet understand. The ranch around them feels alive again. The horses stir in their stalls, sensing the strange energy that sweeps through the place. The old windmill creaks softly, and the sound feels like a whisper of memory, one that belongs to both of them. Amy swallows hard, her voice trembling as she finally speaks. Ty, how? It's not a question that expects an answer, not yet. It's the sound of disbelief, of grief turning inside out. Ty doesn't speak right away. He looks around, his eyes scanning every detail like he's memorizing the place again. The barn doors, the wide pasture, the smell of hay. It's the same ranch he left, yet different somehow, as if time has passed through it like a storm. When he finally meets Amy's gaze, his voice is low and rough. I didn't think I'd ever see this place again. Amy's throat tightens. She wants to ask where he's been, What happened? How any of this is possible? But she can't form words. All she can do is stare at him, afraid that any sudden movement will shatter the fragile reality standing before her. The silence between them feels like a bridge built over years of pain, and neither knows how to cross it. Then, from the house, a familiar voice cuts through the quiet. It's Jack. His footsteps crunch against the gravel, slow and steady, like always. He's calling out to Amy, asking about breakfast, unaware of what waits just beyond the barn. The moment his eyes find Ty, he stops mid-sentence. His hat slips from his hand, hitting the ground softly. For a man who's faced more storms than most, Jack looks utterly undone. His lips part, but no words come. He just stares his grandson-in-law, the man he buried in his heart years ago. Standing alive in front of him, Jack steps forward, disbelief giving way to a cautious hope. Ty, that can't be. His voice cracks. For a heartbeat, Ty looks like the young man Jack took under his wing. The one who earned his trust through sweat, kindness, and stubborn determination. Ty nods slightly, his eyes wet. It's me, Jack. There's no grand reunion, no dramatic hug, just silence, heavy, real, raw, the kind that only exists when something too big for words happens. Jack's eyes glisten, his jaw tight. You've got a lot to explain, son. But there's no anger, only the soft ache of disbelief. Amy watches them, her heart swelling with emotions she can't name: relief, confusion, gratitude, fear. Inside the house, the day begins to move as usual. Lisa hums while making coffee. Lindy laughs in the kitchen, her small voice bright against the quiet ranch. She's too young to understand the weight of the morning outside. When Amy finally turns toward the house, her heart How do you tell a little girl that her father, the man she's only seen in pictures and stories, is suddenly real again? Ty's eyes follow Amy's gaze. He knows what she's thinking. Does she know? He asks softly. Amy shakes her head, unable to speak. For years, she's told Lindy stories about her father, brave, gentle, kind. She's shown her his photos, told her how he loved the horses, how he'd sing when no one was watching. But she's also told her the hardest truth, that he was gone. Now, that truth has broken open. Amy feels the world shift under her feet. Every heartbeat feels louder, faster. She takes a small step toward Ty, then stops again. Her voice is barely more than a whisper. If you're really here, if this is real, tell me how. Tell me why. Ty looks down, his hands trembling. His eyes carry a shadow, something deep, something that doesn't belong to the Ty she remembers. It's a long story, he says quietly, and I don't even know where to begin. The words hang in the air, like a storm waiting to break. Jack's eyes narrow slightly, suspicion flickering through the disbelief. Start from the part where you didn't die, he says. His tone isn't harsh, but it's steady, the way Jack always faces truth. No matter how hard, Amy takes another step closer. Her heart is still racing, but something inside her begins to steady. For the first time in years, she feels that pull, the old connection that never really disappeared. But behind the relief is a question that burns hotter than all the rest. What happened to Ty Fleming? And why did it take him so long to come home? As the morning sun climbs higher, the ranch stands still, caught between heartbreak and miracle. Amy doesn't know what's coming next. But one thing is certain, Heartland will never be the same again. The afternoon light settles over Heartland like a soft blanket, but the air is far from calm. The ranch is quiet, too quiet, the kind of silence that comes before a storm. Amy sits on the porch steps, hands clasped together, eyes fixed on the horizon. Ty stands a few feet away, leaning against one of the posts. He looks tired, older somehow, his face shadowed by things he hasn't said yet. Every second stretches, filled with questions neither knows how to ask. Inside the house, Jack and Lisa speak in low tones, unsure what to do next. Lou's voice joins in, sharp, skeptical, full of worry. We buried him, Jack, she says, almost whispering. We saw the proof. How can he just walk back here like nothing happened? Jack doesn't answer. He stares out the window, his old hands gripping the counter. In his heart, he wants to believe what his eyes saw that morning, but his mind can't make sense of it. Back outside, Amy finally breaks the silence. You can't just show up, Ty. You can't just come back from the dead and not tell me where you've been. Her voice shakes, caught between anger and relief. Ty turns toward her, his eyes heavy. I know, he says softly, and I wish I could have done it differently. He walks closer, each step careful, as if afraid she might vanish instead. The day it happened, the day everyone thought I died, I was working up north. There was an accident, a bad one. I was hurt worse than anyone knew. They thought I didn't make it. I don't remember much after that. Only bits and pieces, the hospital, waking up in another town, not even sure who I was at first. Amy listens, frozen. His words sound unreal, but his pain is real. His voice cracks on certain memories, his hands trembling as if each word costs him something. When I finally remembered, months had passed, then years, and by the time I got strong enough to come back, I didn't know if I should. I didn't know if you'd moved on, or if there was still a place for me here. Amy's eyes fill with tears. A place for you? She says, her voice barely holding together. You were my life, Ty. You and Lindy, you were everything. She stands, emotion boiling over, her chest tight with years of grief that now feel like betrayal. Do you have any idea what it was like? To tell our daughter her father wasn't coming home. Ty lowers his head, unable to meet her eyes. Every day I was gone, I thought about you, he says. I wanted to come back, but I was scared. Scared you'd hate me. Scared you'd built a life I didn't belong in anymore. Amy steps back, shaking her head. You think fear justifies silence. Her voice cracks, and for the first time, Ty sees all the strength it took for her to survive without him. You were gone, Ty. I buried you in my heart, and tried to live again. And now you show up alive, expecting me to just, what? Pretend none of that happened. He doesn't answer. The pain between them hangs thick in the air, too real to escape. The sound of the screen door opening breaks the tension. Jack steps out slowly, eyes shifting between the two of them. You both have a lot to work through, he says quietly, but yelling won't fix it. Not now. Ty nods, swallowing hard. Amy turns away, wiping her tears. The horses whinny from the stables, their restless energy filling the space that words can't. Ty looks out across the pasture, where the mountains rise against the fading sky. I didn't just come back for me, he says finally. I came back for her, for Lindy. Amy's breath catches again. The thought of Lindy seeing her father for the first time, not in photos, not in stories, hits her like a wave. She doesn't know how to explain it to her daughter, doesn't know if she's ready to open that door again, but deep down, a tiny spark flickers, the same one that's always connected her to Ty Dot. As night begins to fall, the lights in the house glow warm against the dark. Lisa sets the table quietly, Lou paces by the window, and Jack stands near the fireplace, lost in thought. He's seen miracles before, but none like this. Outside, Amy and Ty stand under the open sky, both caught between love and fear. I don't know how to start again, Amy whispers. Ty takes a small step closer, his voice low, steady, and full of quiet hope. Then we start small, he says, one truth at a time. The wind moves through the trees, carrying with it the smell of pine and the soft hum of the land that has always held their story. Amy doesn't answer, but for the first time since he returned, she doesn't step away either. Somewhere deep inside, she knows the hardest part isn't believing he's alive. It's learning how to live with him again. And as the stars begin to rise over Heartland, the ranch feels different, not peaceful yet, but alive, as if the earth itself knows a new chapter has begun. The next morning at Heartland feels different. The air is thick with questions no one wants to ask out loud. The sun peeks over the hills, spilling light across the pastures. But even the horses seem unsettled, restless as if they can sense the change in the air. Inside the house, silence hangs heavier than words. Cups of untouched coffee cool on the table, and the smell of toast lingers without anyone eating. Everyone is waiting for something, answers, explanations, or maybe just a moment to breathe. Amy stands in the kitchen doorway, her hands twisting the edge of her sleeve. Her eyes are tired, red from a night with no sleep. She keeps glancing toward the window, where Ty stands by the old barn, staring out at the fields he once called home. Lou sits at the table, her phone untouched beside her, her face lined with worry. We can't just act like everything's normal, she says quietly. This isn't possible, Amy. People don't just come back from the dead. Amy doesn't look at her, her voice comes out flat, distant. I know, but he's here. Lou sighs, rubbing her temples. Then we need to figure out how. We need proof, something real. She means well, but her words feel like salt in a wound. Amy turns to her sister, eyes sharp. I don't need proof, Lou. I've spent years wishing for a miracle, and now that it's standing in front of me, I'm not going to question it to death. Jack, who's been silent this whole time, finally speaks. You might not want answers, Amy, but the rest of us do. His tone is gentle but steady, that quiet authority that's guided this family through every storm. If Ty's really back, then we owe it to ourselves to understand what brought him home. Amy nods slowly. Deep down, she knows Jack's right, but there's one more thing that matters before any explanation. Lindy, her little girl. The thought alone makes her stomach twist. How do you tell a child that her father, the man she's only known through stories and photos, is suddenly real? Outside, Ty walks toward the fence line. His steps are slow, measured. He's trying to remember the rhythm of this place, the crunch of the dirt under his boots, the smell of morning dew, the soft nickers of the horses waiting to be fed. Everything is both familiar and foreign. He hears the screen door creak open and turns. Amy's there, holding Lindy's small hand. The little girl's eyes are wide, curious, the morning light catching the gold in her hair. Amy kneels beside her. Her voice is soft, trembling. "Sweetheart, remember the stories I told you about your dad?" Lindy nods, her eyes never leaving the man standing a few feet away. "Well?" Amy continues, her throat tightening. "He's here. This is him." For a moment, the world holds still. Lindy blinks, her small face twisting in confusion. "But, you said he was in heaven." The words hit Amy like a punch. Tears sting her eyes, but she forces a smile. "I thought he was," she whispers. "But sometimes, miracles happen." Ty takes a slow step forward, his heart pounding harder than it ever has. "Hey kiddo," he says softly, his voice shaking just enough to break something inside him. Lindy looks up at him, studying his face like she's trying to match it to every story she's ever heard. "You're real?" she asks, barely above a whisper. Ty kneels down so their eyes meet. "Yeah," he says, smiling through tears. "I'm real." She hesitates, then steps closer, her tiny hand reaching out to touch his. The moment her fingers brush against his skin, Ty's breath catches. It's the touch he's dreamed about in lonely nights, the one thing that kept him alive when he wanted to give up. Lindy studies his hand, then looks up at him again. "You came back," she says, her voice filled with something pure and innocent. Ty nods, his throat too tight for words. "I did." Amy watches them, her heart breaking and healing all at once. This is what she's wanted for so long, to see her daughter meet her father, but it feels unreal. Fragile, like a dream that could shatter if she moves too fast. Behind her, Jack stands quietly on the porch, his eyes glistening. Even Lou, standing in the doorway, looks moved, despite herself. Lindy laughs suddenly, a small, bright sound that fills the air. She throws her arms around Ty's neck, and he closes his eyes, holding her close as if afraid she'll disappear. Amy covers her mouth with her hand, tears streaming freely now. For the first time in years, the sound of joy echoes across Heartland. But beneath the beauty of that moment lies something deeper and Ty knows there are truths he hasn't shared yet, pieces of his story that might change everything. And Amy can sense it. The man she loves is back, but he's different, carrying a shadow that doesn't belong to the Ty she lost. That's the sun climbs higher, painting the sky a soft gold. Amy whispers to herself, "He came back, but at what cost?" The wind sweeps across the open fields, carrying her words away, leaving only the sound of horses and the quiet beating of hope. The Bartlett-Fleming family gathers slowly outside, drawn together by the weight of the impossible. Love resurrected, faith tested, and a future none of them can predict. Heartland has seen joy, loss, and rebirth before, but this time, the story feels different. This isn't just about a man returning home. It's about finding a way to live again after life has already moved on. And as the family stands beneath the endless Alberta sky, one thing becomes clear: the real test of heart begins now.